Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Jez77. What grinds my gears, and this is going to be a new little thing called the Grinder's Bite. Quick little bit. Initially had this as the Grindhouse, but you guys are the Grindhouse. I don't want to confuse that, so I just want to do some short videos, just not my live stream of what grinds my gears, but something where I could just get my point out there and just mention some things and just to have some content coming to the channel. So, with that, I decided to make the first Grinders Bite about something I was just thinking about. With a lot of the Phil Ness, hashtag Phil Ness, been going on out there, and things that are coming to fruition a lot. And Phil's been running around the last couple of days, having some interviews with Wired Magazine, things like that, talking about how he sees a future without consoles, and it's about the players, not how many devices he sells. Going back around that, which is very confusing considering this is a launch year for the Xbox console, the new one, next generation, and also right on the eve of the next future of gaming, the future of gaming with the PlayStation 5. We're going to get into it because I have this weird idea, which I think is probably which is currently going on. I have this concept. I want you guys to hear it, and then you could, chime in the comments. But with that, let's get started. All right. So, this is what I'm thinking. Like, how can you satisfy both ends of the stick? Let's lay this out there. We've been talking about this for a long time, right? The first thing is xCloud putting Xbox games to your phones, to mobile devices. That is the future. They are trying to get this to the cloud, right? All these games, they've been adding things to it. Stadia has been flopped. xCloud really has the streaming of games really is not what people want right now. Um, and it has not really kicked off at all. Nvidia streaming, xCloud is nice because it's out there, it's free. They're just throwing out free games, and if you have the app, however, they're still not on iPhone, which is a huge, that's Apple. That's on Apple. That's not on Microsoft. That's on Apple, which is another challenge when you have to depend on your competition to be successful, which is another reason why I think xCloud has a big hill to climb with trying to reach mobile gamers because Android and Apple, Google and Apple are competitors to Microsoft, and they're going to make sure that whatever they got going on is front and center and not allowing competition to overtake anything that they are doing. Just look for a perfect example, just look at Google Home versus Amazon Alexa and how Amazon treats Google and how Amazon didn't want to put YouTube got pulled from Amazon Fire Sticks because they didn't want to sell the Google Homes in the Amazon store. They have competing products, and they're going to make sure that their product shines the most. And Microsoft doesn't have a device in this game, and they need to depend on Apple's ecosystem and Google's ecosystem to be successful. And that's the challenge that xCloud faces. But besides all that, xCloud's a way to get Microsoft games and their services to players who don't buy a console or a PC, right? The next element is Game Pass, which is putting all the games in a subscription. So you don't have to a la carte buy these games. They are just slapped into a subscription pass that you just pay monthly on. Again, developing this kind of mobile concept of basically making every game a service or a microtransaction game. Basically making a game as a service. That's what they've been doing, and it's been kind of disruptive and a little lackluster on their end because they basically have been just making games that are incomplete, partly done, glitches, content is coming, and not well received as a traditional reviewer or a traditional game. As Sony and Nintendo release traditional $60 games that are content approved with all the stuff in there and maybe some DLC and very complete games. Microsoft is recently releasing incomplete games and saying more stuff is coming later. Minecraft Dungeons being the latest example of, for a company that touted cross-play and cross this and cross that, not having that on day one with you're on everything, a PlayStation, a Switch, not having the cross-play or cross-saves for that matter. after you were the one that came up with the ad better together. Yeah, major L on that one, especially since they did all the talk and hubbub about it. But Game Pass, xCloud, that is the future of Microsoft. So why release consoles? Why spend so much research and development in developing consoles, nonetheless touting the most powerful console out there with the Series X and the X, right? So this is where I had a little bit of just thinking about this stuff, and basically, and I'm maybe think about the title of this thing, but basically, what Microsoft is doing is still developing consoles, but not for the console market per se versus Sony versus Nintendo. As you look at what's currently going on, people think they're still in this fight. They're not. What the console is to Microsoft is a blade. It is a server blade that they just happen to have put in a device for you to play at home. But to them, the console is a means to an end of ending in the server farm. That is the answer why they're still making a console. Mentally, and even what they say, they do not care about the millions of consoles they could sell. Hence why I don't think that they will like take a hit or a loss or price this so competitively that they want to outsell PlayStation. They're not in that game anymore. So people that are Xbox console fans are in for a disappointment. You'll get your console, but that is not the focus. Hence why another reason why I jumped to PC to experience Xbox, because that's where they put some exclusives and that's where their focus is. The console is a means to the blade. It's a means to an end. They're just happening to pacify you guys so you slowly migrate either to a phone or to a PC, because that is the destination. And then they will deliver their games to you over the server farm. Just like Stadia touted 10 teraflops in their farm, but then they stream it over the internet, Microsoft is doing the same thing. Right now, they got S's, power Xbox One S's, that they probably didn't sell, thrown in a server farm that's powering xCloud. Eventually, those will probably be Xbox One X's or a Series X. Hence the other thing of why they're even developing a Lockhart. The Lockhart, they're basically developing the blades for their servers, that back end of xCloud. That is the end game. That is why they are making the consoles. Not to try to win back the hearts and fans that they lost in the beginning of the generation, but to just make the hardware so that they could recycle the used hardware and put it in their server farms to power xCloud and host Game Pass. That is the end game. And I think that in the next 3 to 4 years, we will just see the Xbox app on a Nintendo console and a PlayStation console, and on a phone and on your TV, and that is the end of Xbox as we know it. All the years of marketing, Kojima, partnerships, apps, Xbox Live, all this stuff has come to this. This is the end of the Xbox as we know it. This is not a jumping off point that is going to reinvigorate the Xbox console to be what the 360 was or had potential to be even better. This is not it. This is the end of Xbox as a console, and it is going to go to heaven, to the cloud. As all things die, they go up. And that's what's going to happen. The Xbox console is dead to move to the cloud. They are just making you play the blades right now. And that's why they're spending this time on research and development, because it boggles my mind to go, well, if the consoles don't matter and the sales of the consoles don't matter, then how the hell do you still promote and release and tout a product. It's the Phil Ness. It's the two sides. It's like, well, how do you do that? And the only logical reason is because that is not a console. That is a blade. They are going to strip that down and dump it right into a blade, and that is going to be what's powering the back end of Xbox. And Xbox will be the cloud app Game Pass. That is the reason why. That's why they are going to a mobile model. And then what happens is they'll probably keep making these blades a little bit better, or have different tiers of blades where, hey, you want the 12 teraflop experience, that will be $20 a month. You want an S experience, that will be $10 a month. So they'll have a gold tier streaming and a silver tier streaming. And depending on the tier, will be depending on the quality of the game that gets streamed to you. And that will also depend on your internet connection. But that is the end game. That is the end game. Likewise, I think PlayStation Now will probably utilize the PlayStation 4 guts to power their servers, and that they have been already, since they've been using PlayStation 4 games in it since 2016, since when they moved over from PlayStation 3 games only being in PlayStation Now to PlayStation 4. But they still have a strong investment and need for the console to succeed and to sell. It's always been Sony's MO. Sony is an electronics company that depends on the sales of their software and hardware. Microsoft does not need Xbox. If Xbox goes away tomorrow, Microsoft won't even blink an eye. They'll be like, oh, whatever. How's Forza Street doing? Like, it does not matter to them. It does not bring in anything. What they saw was an opportunity to throw gaming into the realm of subscriptions and services. And that is the opportunity that Phil and Satya decided to do, is we're not winning this console battle. This console battle it's too much money to invest in billions of dollars in games for them not to sell, or for us not to move hardware. It's a different time for Microsoft right now. They are not in the device and hardware place to win. They just want to be around. And that is what this is. And it's sad to say, and that's what grinds my gears, is that it's sad to see all the money and investment I had put in Xbox, thinking that this was a console that was here to stay. And Microsoft was serious about really taking it to Nintendo, taking it to Sony, and really delivering a competing product, to just watch it wither away and turn into this cloud thing, service subscription, and then for them to turn their games into that and compromise their games for such a model. That is a sad thing to see, and that is unfortunate. But what you're playing right now and what you're going to buy, that's why there's so many options, is because you're playing the blades. And these blades will be the back end of xCloud. And that's where all their research and development is going. And just to a final point to this is that back, if you look at Digital Foundry's video, and I'll see if I could grab it and maybe throw it in here. But Digital Foundry highlights, because there's a lot of stuff talking about the SSDs and the teraflops. Digital Foundry highlights this and saying that basically the Xbox Series X, its architecture is really made for like a streaming type thing, like a server. And I recall them saying this. I have to go back and watch it, but I don't know where they say it but they're breaking it down and basically saying like, oh, this is ideal for like a streaming type thing. And that's the reason why, if you look at the differences between the PlayStation 5 in the architecture and in the Xbox One X and Series X, another stupid name too. The difference is that Sony seems to, and this is from what the developers have been saying, Sony seems to have harnessed and optimized their configurations to work in tandem with each other, and is much more customized hardware and communication, where Microsoft seems like to be more of a Frankenstein piece of most powerful pieces put together. Not to say that there's no software running it, but the thing is that it seems like Sony is definitely going to more of the end user experience with their customized hardware and usage cases. Whereas Microsoft is just saying brute force, run it at the highest fidelity, run it on high and let it go, and that's it. Where Sony's like, hey, this could change the end. You could change the end user experience to the developers, and you could change how you develop games and how you design games, and that's why you're seeing a lot more developers. This is not even Sony or even Greenberg and Phil. These are devs. This is not Cerny and House and all those guys not even there anymore hyping up their own brand. These are developers coming out and showing that and telling that they're more excited, and they're explaining the capabilities of how this SSD allows them to stream in data and how they could build worlds and not be restricted by loading and using the speed of it almost to offset assets. It sounds pretty crazy, but it sounds exciting. And if the developers are excited, then we expect to see some great end user experiences. It's not just load times. They're actually able to use this stuff to render in things and to develop things. And an example is like Horizon Zero Dawn, where they said that they wanted to put in a plane or some sort of glider that you could go across the map. The problem is they couldn't load in the assets fast enough. They couldn't load in the game fast enough to do that stuff. Now you could load this in, and now they could develop a flying mechanic in a game. That's what I mean in game design. And if the Sony SSD allows developers to do those kind of things, that is definitely more exciting than if Microsoft just put an SSD in there and it's not as fast as Sony's, and Sony's machine is allowed for doing different things. And Sony's first party, which is very strong, will utilize that. And the Xbox first party has yet to really demonstrate what their capabilities are. And they're really middle tier developers that were brought on to make content for Game Pass. But if the games that they're making have to run on X clouds and Xboxes and PCs and maybe even port it over to a Switch later on, hence like Cuphead and things like that, how much customized focus do these developers have in Microsoft first party to really utilize all the intricacies of the console when the console is not the focus of Microsoft? That's the conundrum. But Microsoft's going to let you play the blades. They're going to sell you those blades, and when they don't sell in Best Buy, they're going to take them back or fire sale them, and they're going to put them in the servers, because that's where the R&D is going. They're developing these things to be stackable in servers. Who knows? Maybe that's why it's the shape of the box. I don't know, but they're blades. You're working on these blades, and that is essentially the future of the Xbox console. Now, Sony comes out on June 11th and says something else. Well, then we'll see what the future of consoles overall are. But Sony seems to be very focused on selling you a PlayStation 5, where Phil's like, you could go wherever you want because he knows he's going to get you wherever you go. Phil's getting you. That's the reason why Phil don't care if you buy an Xbox Series X. That's why he's not going to say, hey, Series X is $300. We're below Sony because we got to sell these things. No, Phil don't care. They're not going to take a loss because he don't care. Stay where you are. Go to PC. Stay on the phone. We're coming to you via xCloud, via multi-platform first-party game development. That is a oxymoron. Multi-platform first-party. That's kind of what it is. That's what all their studios are. Multi-platform first-party. Day and date, PC and console, and who knows? Minecraft Dungeons was a multi-platform first party. And that wasn't just happened to be there with a Microsoft branding. They developed it for a PlayStation and a Switch. Pretty interesting. But with that, it just had this thought. Now, it might not come true, but it just seems so logical as to why they keep making this hardware when they say it's not about the hardware. Their strategy is not about that because they did not succeed this generation in selling it, and they know they've lost too much and they can't get it back. And what they're going to have to do is, instead of trying to pull people to them like they did with the 360, making those big moves with Final Fantasy, GTA, Kojima on stage with Metal Gear, and big deals, and making 1 versus 100 and Xbox Arcade and indie devs, and all that push to try to drag people and pull people in, which made Xbox 360 so exciting. Now they're just stay where you are. We're coming to you. We're doing door-to-door delivery. You want to be on play? We'll get to you on PlayStation. We'll put the app. We'll get you all games. You want to stay on the Switch? We'll get to you. You want to stay on an OG Xbox? We'll come back to you. Microsoft is coming to you now. That's the Satya model. So they're not doing these things. That's why I expect that Sony's thing is that Sony is possibly going to have games to draw you in. That's why Horizon Zero Dawn, I said before, was probably on PC, is because they want to use that IP as a fishing lure to say, hey, you guys on PC, you really like Horizon? Well, here's Horizon 2 exclusively on PlayStation 5. Maybe they could pull some people from the PC to buy a PlayStation. Maybe, maybe not. But it's a way of getting your IP out there to draw them into your product. Where Microsoft is like, stay where you are, we're coming to you. And that is the reason why the xCloud and Game Pass is going to be the future. But you know what? I still think it's stupid for them to even talk about it. I think it's stupid that Phil even brought that up, that's not important, because that's not the message you want to send when you're dropping a console. Because the people who are most likely going to buy the console are the dedicated folk that think that you really care about that console. And the fact that you come out and just be, yeah, it don't matter, that's not something you want to have going into your next release of a console. So I think it's bad taste. I think Phil needs to shut up and stop doing interviews, because it's been about devices for the last 2 years. You got to show some friggin' games, and you got to show the content that people want to play. Like I said before, stop telling us where we could play, but have people want to play. Fortnite is everywhere because people want to play Fortnite. Crackdown 3 is everywhere, but nobody's playing it because nobody wants it. So it doesn't matter where you are. It's a matter if you create a demand for your services and your products. You could be on billions of phones. You're on billions of PCs right now. Go look at how many people are playing Bleeding Edge. Bleeding Edge is on 1 billion PCs and 50 million Xboxes. How many people are playing Bleeding Edge? Because nobody wants to play Bleeding Edge. And if you put that on 1 trillion phones globally or 2 billion players, guess how many people will be playing Bleeding Edge? Not many more. You got to make content that people want to play. That is what you should have done first. You should have made desirable content, then decide on where people play it. Instead, you put the cart before the horse. You basically said, well, you can play everywhere, Xbox everywhere. And what you try to do is use backwards compatibility as a crutch. But people don't want to play old games everywhere anymore. People want to play new experiences, must-haves. Shit, if you put Last of Us 2 on PC day one with PlayStation, come on. People want to play that game. So wherever it is, people will play it. That's a problem that Microsoft has. Their software, their first party. But we will see in July. But with that, this has been the first of many. And welcome to the Grinders and the new subscribers. Thank you for the support. This has been your Grinders Bite. Thank you.